Is it nevertheless surprising to you that we have not destroyed ourselves with nuclear weapons? So the mutually assured destruction that we've had for many decades, from somebody who studies violence, how does that make sense to you?
Well, I mean, I'm surprised only in the sense that the fact that we have not had an accident yet has been quite remarkable. Because all the accounts are that we've come very close to having very serious accidents where people on either side have misread intentions or apparent launches and so on. So yes, I think it is remarkable. There's a nasty generalization that can be made that the longer that powerful states go without having wars, then the worse the war is afterwards. And you can sort of see that kind of makes sense, because basically what's happening with these tribal groups that the nations are at the moment is that after a big war like the Second World War, they establish new kinds of dominance relationships. And then during the periods of peace, what happens is that the de facto dominance relationships change, because some nations become poorer, some become richer, some become more militarily powerful, and so on. Generally, economy and military go hand in hand. So, right now, China emerged from the war as a relatively low status state and is now high status. So if these were chimpanzees, what would happen is that you would predict a conflict, because you need to have a readjustment of the formal dominance relationships to recognize the new, in practice, dominance relationships recognized by the economy and the military. So the longer that you have of a period of peace following a war, then the more these tensions of unresolved, changed dominance relationships build up. Mm-hmm. And the longer they take to occur, then the more challenging are going to be the conflicts.
That's a terrifying view, because we've been out of conflict for quite a bit.
That's
so
right.
Maybe it's building up.
so it's a scary view. But on the other hand, things have changed hugely with the advent of nuclear weapons, because at least that conforms to this psychology that is very clear in other animals, which is you don't want to get into a fight if you are going to get hurt. Mm-hmm. So that's the whole principle of MAD, mutually assured destruction. And it's doubtless been why powerful nations like America and Russia have not used their nuclear weapons since 1945. So if we can overcome the problem of accidental launches, then maybe the fact of MAD does fit into human psychology in a way that means that we really will resolve our tensions without using them. But we haven't yet really faced that challenge. The Soviet Union collapsed because of the poor economy, but with China, desperate to take back Taiwan, and America shifting its focus on the Pacific, the potential for something going wrong is clearly very high.
So what's the hopeful case that you can make for a long-term surviving and thriving human civilization, given all the dangers that we face?
Well, I can't really exactly make one. I would just say that we're talking about the dangers. Obviously, the dangers are there.
Yeah.
But what I would sort of think about is the notion that surprises come from all sorts of different directions. Mm-hmm. You work in robotics, mm-hmm. and I could well imagine that there will be advances in robotics that in some way I can't even conceive, mm-hmm. will somehow undermine the motivation for conflict. Mm-hmm. Something about, by the time chips have been planted in human brains and we're all instantly sharing information in a way that we never did before, mm-hmm. Will this change the nature of human existence in such a way that these conflicts get resolved?
So remove the conflicts, but keep some of the magic, the beauty of what it means to be human. So still be able to enjoy life, the richness of life, the full complexity of life. Because you can remove conflict by giving everybody a pill, then they go to sleep, right? You still want life to be amazing, exciting, interesting. And so that's where you have to find the balance.
Well, yes, I mean, it's all science fiction stuff, and so how it's going to work out, totally unclear. I don't see any worry about the magic of life disappearing. I mean, first of all, you somehow get rid of males. I think you really need to get rid of males because males are the source of uh, of a major problem, which is the lust for power and the resulting conflict.
But you don't think the males are also a source of beauty and
No, no,
creation?
no. I mean, I don't have anything against males as as individuals and that sort of thing, and males have clearly done a lot. I mean, they've been incredibly exploratory and creative, and what they've done in art and music has been wonderful, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
On the other hand, I'm not sure there's anything particularly special, and I think that probably females could do the same thing just as well when given the chance.
Yes, including the dark stuff. I mean, a part of me is not understanding the. So there is evolutionary distinction between men and women, but I tend to believe both men and women, if you look out into the future, can be destructive, can be evil, can be greedy, can be corrupted by power. So if you move males from the picture, which are historically connected to this evolution of that we've been talking about, that women are going to fill that role quite nicely. And then it'll be just the same kind of process, not the same, but it'll be new and interesting. There's a sense that the will to power, craving power, committing violence is somehow coupled with all the things that are beautiful about life. That if you remove conflict completely, if you remove all of the evil in the world, it seems like you're going to you're not going to have a stable place for the beauty, for the goodness. Like there's always has to be a dragon to fight for the way. If you look at human history now, you can say the reason I'm nervous about a sort of utopia where everything is great is every time you look through human history when utopia has been chased, you run into a lot of trouble where again sneaks into this evil, this craving for power. Now you could say that's a male problem, but I just think it's a human problem, and it's not even a human problem. It's a chimp problem too. It's life on Earth problem, intelligent life on Earth problem. So like, it's better to not necessarily get rid of the sources of the darker sides of human nature, but more create mechanisms that the kindness, the goodness, as the goodness paradox, your book, that is incentivized and encouraged, empowered.
Well, look, I don't think it would be utopia if you got rid of the males.
Right.
And certainly females are capable of conflict. Mm-hmm. I just think it's a gamble worth taking if you could actually do it. You can certainly find females in history who've done unpleasant things. But nevertheless, we have a very strong evolutionary theory which explains why males benefit more by having conflict and winning conflicts than females do. And so if we want to talk about reducing conflict,
yes,
then it would reduce it to get rid of males. Now, I understand this is a fantasy, mm-hmm. and I think it's a fantasy that people would be able to talk about fairly soon because reproductive technology is getting to the point where it's quite likely that human females could breed without the use of males. Mm-hmm. And so there would be a sort of a potential dynamic if everybody just agreed not to have any male babies.
It's a really interesting thought experiment. I will agree with you that if given two buttons, one is get rid of all women and the other button is get rid of all men, realizing that I have a stake in this choice, you're probably getting rid of all men. If I wanted to preserve Earth and the richness of life on Earth, I would probably get rid of all men. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't think you have a stake in it. I mean, but you're saying that because you're a man.
Yeah.
But I don't see why being a man should make you any more interested in having a male future for the world than a female future. You've got just as many ancestors who were male as were female.
Mm-hmm. Well, my problem is I'll have to die.
Well, that's going to happen anyway.
I know, but like I prefer to die tomorrow, not today. I prefer to hit the snooze button on the whole mortality thing. But it's interesting.
But this is not suggesting that males have to die in order to make room for females. It's just, you all you have to do is just say, don't let's have any more males born.
Interesting.
Of course, the difficulty is that because we're tribal, some country somewhere would say, well, we're not going to do that.
Yeah.
And then guess what? They'd take over, because they're males. So that's why it's impossible to imagine it actually happening.
You know what? I'm gonna take that and actually think about it. I don't know. I'm uncomfortable. There's a certain kind of woke culture that I've been kind of uncomfortable with because it's not women necessarily. It's more just there's a lot of bullying I see. There's a lack of empathy and a lack of kindness towards others that's created by that culture. So, but you're speaking about something else. You're speaking about reducing conflict in this world and looking at the basics of our human nature and its origins in the evolution of Homo sapiens, and thinking about which kind of aspects of human nature, if we get rid of them, will make for a better world. It's an interesting thought experiment, worth
But it
thinking
is
about.
only a thought experiment. I mean, it's got no practical meaning right now.
Yes.
And I take your point that, males get a hard rap nowadays in some ways because the balance of social power is moving against quite rightly, in a strong sense, of course, against all the nasty things that males do. But what people sometimes fail to remember is that life is very hard for males who don't have the power, who don't have money, who don't have access to women. I'm sympathetic to incels. I'm not sympathetic to them using violence to solve their problems, but I am very sympathetic to the fact that it's not easy simply to be told by well-off feminist middle-class people that you shouldn't behave like this or you shouldn't feel like this, because you do.
Yes. It's who you are. I mean, in general, just empathy and kindness, male or female, I believe will be the thing that builds a better world. And that's practiced in different ways from different backgrounds. But ultimately, you should listen to others and empathize with the experience of others and put more love out there in the world. Now, that hopefully is the way to reduce conflict, reduce violence, and reduce that whole psychological experience of being powerless in this world, powerless to become the best version of yourself. And that,
Well, no one's going to disagree with all those fine sentiments, right?
But yes, but that's an actionable thing, is actually practice empathy, right? Like saying that somebody should be silenced, or just like this group is bad and this group is good. I just feel like that's not empathy. Empathy is understanding the experience of others and like respecting it. Like, I mean, that's what a better world looks like. That's what the reduction of conflict looks like. It's like, as opposed to saying my tribe is right, your tribe is wrong. Forget the violence or the non-violence part. That act of saying my tribe is right, that tribe is wrong, removing that from the picture, that's the way to make a better world. Like, that's the way to reduce the violence, I think. Not necessarily removing the people who are causing the violence. You have to get to the source of the problem. I don't mean the evolutionary source, but the mindset that creates the violence is usually just the lack of empathy for others.
Yeah, but you can't just teach that, because our evolutionary psychology puts us in particular directions.
So do you think it's possible to learn through practice to resist the basics of our evolutionary psychology, the basic forces?
Yeah, I mean, lots and lots of training, lots and lots of education can do it. The famously most peaceful society that anthropologists have recorded involves a tremendous amount of teaching, including some punishment. It's a society in Thailand. You have to beat it out of children to make them nice.
So it's carrot and stick.
The point is that you do not find societies in which people are spontaneously showing the kinds of behaviors that we would all love them to show.
It requires work.
It requires work.